iconic laugh, SpongeBob's life is just a series of brutal beatdowns, and we're about to break down the worst of them. Because in this episode, The Krabby Chronicle, Mr. Krabs cranks his exploitation game up to bat-crazy heights. So the episode begins with Mr. Krabs realizing that his microscopic Krusty Krab ad in the newspaper isn't pulling in the customers. Shocker. Instead of rethinking his advertising strategy like a normal business owner, he discovers people are buying the bottom feeder, which, by the way, isn't even truthful. Light bulb moment for Mr. Krabs. He sees an opportunity to make money by starting his own newspaper. Enter Spongebob, who's about to get a major upgrade in job duties. No longer just flipping patties, he's now the lead reporter of the Krabby Chronicle. You'd think that sounds exciting, right? Nah, Krabs just gave him the world's crappiest gig, slapping him with a camera and sending him out to fish for newsworthy stories. Except SpongeBob's too pure for the dirt Krabs is looking for. Our spongy boy is snapping photos of Patrick watching a pole, thinking that's headline material. And why is Patrick staring at a pole? You know what? That's a dumb question. This is Patrick. Of course he's staring at a pole. Anyway, my dude Krabs isn't having it. He turns a harmless story about Patrick into some twisted tale about Patrick marrying a pole. When SpongeBob calls him out for lying, Mr. Krabs, in true exploitative fashion, gaslights him, saying it's not lying, it's giving people something to laugh about. Emotional manipulation right there. Krabs doesn't even care about the damage he's doing to SpongeBob's sense of integrity. From here, things get real dark for SpongeBob. Under Mr. Krabs' pressure, SpongeBob's forced to write increasingly vicious lies, and it's tearing him up. It's bad. The consequences? Mrs. Puff's reputation is shredded, Larry's booted from the gym, Sandy gets her science trophies confiscated, and even Plankton's chum bucket gets shut down. All because SpongeBob's being pushed into a moral corner by his greedy-ass boss. When SpongeBob finally hits his breaking point and tries to reason with Krabs, the abuse ramps up. Mr. Krabs threatens to take away SpongeBob's spatula, basically holding his job hostage to keep him in line. It's manipulative as hell, and now it's blackmail too. Krabs doesn't even let him sleep, telling him to write the wildest story ever all night long. Typical overwork tactics, squeezing our sponge boy dry. But SpongeBob finally snaps back. Instead of writing another fake story, he exposes Mr. Krabs' entire scam, detailing how he's been forced to write these lies, hurting people in the process. When the angry mob storms the Krusty Krab demanding their money back, you almost feel sorry for Mr. Krabs, but nah, the dude damn well deserves it. Krabs breaks down crying, but it's not about hurting SpongeBob or ruining people's lives, it's all about his lost cash. Even after getting busted, Krabs tries to use the Krabby Chronicle printer to print counterfeit money. Meanwhile, SpongeBob? He's just standing there staring at his boss like, really, dude? After all the emotional abuse he's just endured. The episode ends with Patrick, who actually did marry the pole, like the entire nonsense from Mr. Krabs' lies just kept rolling in real time. Honestly, I am not going down that pole. Patrick needs to figure out his... It's ridiculous how far Krabs will go to exploit SpongeBob for his own gain. And poor SpongeBob, he's the one left dealing with the wreckage. And in Squidward the Unfriendly Ghost, Squidward turns SpongeBob's psyche into an absolute wreck as well. Squidward's feeling himself after sculpting a wax version of, well, himself, because who else would he sculpt? The dude's ego is massive. So SpongeBob and Patrick are out here just trying to vibe with a loud game of catch. But that's enough to set Squidward off. He storms off to take a bath, probably because his delicate artistic genius can't handle two guys having fun outside or some crap. Here's where the mistreatment kicks in. SpongeBob and Patrick accidentally launch a shell straight into Squidward's house, knocking over the wax statue. Now, these idiots think they've literally just killed Squidward. They spiral into full-blown panic mode, convinced they've committed wax-based manslaughter. What follows is basically torture disguised as CPR, with SpongeBob and Patrick desperately trying to revive a wax figure, throwing every bad idea at the wall, hoping something will stick. When Squidward, fresh out of his bath and covered in talcum powder, bursts out of the steam like he's straight up haunting his own house, SpongeBob and Patrick assume he's back from the dead. Instead of clearing up the misunderstanding, Squidward sees his golden opportunity and decides, hey, why not gaslight these guys into doing all my chores? So he leans into the whole vengeful ghost act and proceeds to abuse SpongeBob's loyalty by making him and Patrick his personal slaves. SpongeBob, being the innocent sponge he is, falls for it. He runs around doing Squidward's dirty work like he's a butler, completely unaware that his so-called friend is manipulating the hell out of him. And what does Squidward do? He enjoys it, watching SpongeBob and Patrick bust their butts while he lounges around basking in their fear. But it doesn't stop there. When SpongeBob and Patrick stumble on a comic about the Flying Dutchman's corpse being disrespected, they immediately think they need to give Squidward a proper burial to put him to rest. Now, my dude Squidward could come clean, but of course he doesn't. Nah, Squidward lets them dig his metaphorical grave even deeper. They actually bury him. This dude is lying there, fully alive, while SpongeBob and Patrick throw him a funeral because at this point, he's abusing not just their trust, but their sanity too. Even when Squidward finally admits he's not dead, SpongeBob and Patrick refuse to believe it. And can you blame them? Squidward's been manipulating them for so long, they think he's in denial about his own death. It's just sad at this point. So what does our mistreated Sponge Boy do? He blows a giant bubble, traps Squidward inside, and sends him off to the great beyond like he's doing him a favor. Talk about emotional whiplash. Fuck me. As Squidward floats off into the sky, you can't help but feel for SpongeBob. All this time he's been emotionally toyed with, used as a glorified servant, and gaslit into thinking he's helping a dead friend pass on to the afterlife. And Squidward? He's floating away, leaving behind a trail of manipulation and mental abuse in his wake. Poor SpongeBob doesn't even realize how badly he's been mistreated. He's too busy thinking he's done the right thing. It only gets worse when SpongeBob becomes the unwitting pawn in Mr. Krabs' fucked up plan for kids in Krabby Land. SpongeBob all stoked for the first day of summer like it's the best day of his life. But little does he know his summer is about to take a sharp left turn courtesy of Mr. Krabs' endless thirst for cash. Krabs? Oh, he's not just excited, he's practically foaming at the mouth thinking of all the kiddie meals he's gonna overcharge for. Yeah, dude hikes the price from $1.99 to $4.99 like he's selling filet mignon. There's one problem though. The kids are all at the new playground instead of at the Krusty Krab, and Krabs isn't having it. So what does the penny-pinching crab do? Build his own playground. And by playground, I mean a death trap held together by duct tape and desperation. The thing's more likely to collapse than entertain, but Krabs throws some coloring books at the kids, which are really liability waivers. Classic Krabs. Oh, and for the grand finale, he promises they'll get to meet Krabby the Clown, but yeah, there is no clown. He tells SpongeBob to keep the kids entertained while he, shocker, counts the money. So, here's SpongeBob trying to stall these kids. First, he tries this Krabby Patty burglar act, which bombs harder than a bad stand-up routine. The kids hate it, and they start laughing only when he accidentally hurts himself. These kids don't want to be entertained, they want to watch SpongeBob suffer. And suffer he does. Rather than blowing bubbles, he blows soap into his eyes, and that's just the beginning. SpongeBob realizes the only way to keep them happy is by literally beating himself up. So he even hires thugs to feed him lima beans, the ultimate torture. Dude's practically losing body parts by the time he drags himself back to Mr. Krabs, begging for a break. And what does Mr. Krabs do? Tell him to stop being selfish and get back to stalling. I mean, SpongeBob's barely holding onto his limbs at this point, but Krabs doesn't give a shit. That is until he realizes the kids are about to riot and smash the Krusty Krab windows. So he lets the kids into the restaurant for the big Krabby the Clown reveal. But hold up, guess who Krabby the Clown really is? None other than Mr. Krabs himself, slapping on a tie and painting a tomato blue for a nose. He's not even trying. And the kids? They're done. SpongeBob is done. I'm done. Everybody's done! SpongeBob's so disgusted by the scam that he straight up calls Krabs Cheapy the Cheapskate, which honestly might be the most savage burn we've seen from SpongeBob yet. Krabs doesn't even deny it. He admits it's all about the money and that he couldn't care less about the kids. His whole survival of the fittest speech is just the cherry on top of the selfish sundae. But karma's a and Krabs gets what's coming to him when the kids, who've heard everything, charge him down and beat the crap out of him. They take back all their money, and while SpongeBob tries to find some deeper meaning in this mess, Krabs is left tied up and forced to face the same lima bean torture he made SpongeBob endure earlier. Let's just say, it's not the green stuff he was hoping for. It's enough to choke you up seeing how terribly SpongeBob is mistreated. That's where we get to our next episode, SpongeBob Meets the Strangler, and this one takes the breath from my lungs. So our dude SpongeBob is just minding his business at the Krusty Krab, keeping the place spotless like the absolute try-hard he is. He's picking up every single piece of litter, even though it's literally just part of the job. This dude can't catch a break. But then, bam! Some random dude just starts tossing trash everywhere like he's at an all-you-can-litter buffet. SpongeBob loses it and calls the cops on this guy. Normal, right? Wrong. Turns out this trash-talking punk is the Tattletale Stranger, a certified psycho who strangles people for snitching on him. What does Squidward do when he hears about this? Dips out faster than you can say self-preservation. Thanks for nothing, Squiddy. Now, instead of getting a medal for being a model citizen, SpongeBob's got a walking death sentence after him. Abuse level, 10 out of 10. But it doesn't stop there. The cops, the one who should be protecting SpongeBob from this literal murder, they hit him with, "Nah, you're on your own, buddy. Shouldn't have tattled." Seriously, what the fuck is wrong with these police officers? Holy crap! So now our Sponge Boy is freaking out, looking for a bodyguard, while the actual Strangler is on the loose. But since nobody wants to fight a Strangler, SpongeBob is basically left to fend for himself. Enter the bodyguard, who is the Strangler himself with the world's most obvious fake mustache. SpongeBob hires this guy completely unaware that he's signing his own death sentence. The Strangler's plan? Lead SpongeBob to some dark alley and finish him off. But nope, SpongeBob has other plans. He's like, let me run a bunch of errands first. So now the Strangler's stuck following SpongeBob around town instead of, killing him. After running around all day, they finally get to SpongeBob's house and they walk into a surprise party. For him. Because apparently his 100% on-time average is something worth celebrating. SpongeBob's all happy and clueless while the Strangler's about to lose his shit from the endless parade of guests, confetti, and cake. Anytime the Strangler gets close to choking SpongeBob out, someone barges in. The Strangler is legit ready to snap by the end of the party, but of course, Patrick shows up acting dumber than usual. In the most hilarious mix-up of all, Patrick decides that he's the Strangler and runs off to turn himself in. Oh, Patrick, you pink idiot. SpongeBob's so confused by this point, and the Strangler's just out here trying to figure out how to escape SpongeBob's pure chaos. Finally, the Strangler's like, screw it, rips off his fake mustache and reveals his true identity, like full-on villain mode. And SpongeBob thinks it's some kind of magic trick. The amount of stress SpongeBob causes this man is legendary. No amount of therapy is gonna fix this. But before the Strangler can get his hands around SpongeBob's neck, yet another party starts up. It's like our Sponge Boy's social life is out to get this guy. Fed up with all the nonsense, the Strangler bolts, crashing through walls and trying to make a run for it. But SpongeBob? SpongeBob's still following him around, totally convinced this dude is his loyal bodyguard. No self-awareness. None. The chase ends when the Strangler accidentally throws himself into the police station. Yep, he straight up lands in jail, and it's only then that SpongeBob finally realizes who he's been hanging out with all day. The police are all like, good job, SpongeBob, while the Strangler's just happy to be locked up so he doesn't have to deal with SpongeBob anymore. Guess what, though? Patrick's in the same cell. So now the Strangler has to deal with both of these idiots. Karma! SpongeBob still walking around Bikini Bottom like nothing ever happened. That's some cognitive dissonance if I ever damn well saw it. The poor guy's just trying to live his life, but no one, from Squidward to the cops, ever bothers to give him the protection or recognition he deserves. Making SpongeBob so desperate for attention from his peers, he'll do almost anything in ripped pants. The ultimate tale of a joke going so far off the rails that it's practically a crash landing. Alright, so we start off at Goo Lagoon, where SpongeBob and Sandy are just vibing, enjoying a chill day. But then Larry the Lobster, the absolute unit of muscle-bound crustaceans, pulls up and asks if they want to hit the weights. And you just know it's gonna go downhill for SpongeBob from here. Sandy and Larry start flexing their muscles, lifting weights like they're filled with helium, making it look too easy. And there's SpongeBob struggling with a stick. A stick with marshmallows. Not rocks, not dumbbells, marshmallows. SpongeBob's doing everything he can, face turning red, veins popping. Wait, does he even have veins? And then rip! There it goes. His pants straight up tear from the effort. Everyone's laughing at him, and in true SpongeBob fashion, he's all, well, if they love it, why stop? So what does our Sponge Boy do? He doubles down. No, wait, he triples down. Every 5 minutes, this dude is cracking ripped pants jokes like it's a one-man stand-up special at the Goo Lagoon Comedy Club. At first, it's kind of funny. People are giggling, SpongeBob's getting some laughs. Mission accomplished, right? But nah, SpongeBob doesn't stop there. He's addicted to the attention, like Krabs is addicted to counting pennies. So naturally, the jokes start getting tired, like painfully tired. He's pulling the same gag every few minutes, and it's losing steam fast. Now here comes the mistreatment part. SpongeBob, who, let's be real, was only trying to entertain, gets completely shunned. His friends and everyone else at the beach start turning their backs on him. Can we talk about how Sandy, who's supposed to be his bestie, totally ditches him? That hurts, man. She could have pulled him aside and said, hey, SpongeBob, maybe dial it back a bit. But nope, she just straight up ghosts him. And because SpongeBob's getting desperate, what's his next move? He fakes drowning. Like, bro, seriously? This dude literally pretends to drown, all for the sake of another ripped pants joke. That's when the crowd really turns on him. They all gasp, thinking something horrible's happened. Then they realize it's just another gag. They're over it. Especially Sandy. She's done. She doesn't even look at him anymore. Just heads off to hang out with Larry, like SpongeBob's not even there. Total abandonment. This is where SpongeBob's real suffering kicks in. Imagine feeling so invisible that your only friends would rather bench press with Larry than deal with you. And let's not forget the cherry on top. Even his pants leave him. Yep, the very pants he tore for attention gained sentience and walk away, leaving SpongeBob with nothing but a pile of sand and regret. So, our Spongy Boy sits down to sing his feelings away with a melancholic tune about how he went too far with the whole ripped pants routine. He finally realizes that being the butt of the joke only works until everyone gets sick of it. And now, he's the one who feels torn apart. Pun intended. Thankfully, Sandy has a change of heart because, let's be honest, she's probably the most decent character in this entire mess. She forgives SpongeBob, who manages to humble himself with that song, but right when you think our Sponge has learned his lesson, he signs Larry's shorts and, you guessed it, rips his underwear. Oh, SpongeBob, of course we can't end without one last pants-related f***up. Moral of the story? SpongeBob just wants some laughs, and instead he got exiled from his entire friend group and humiliated on the beach. Even when Madude's trying his best, he still somehow ends up getting ripped to shreds, just like his pants. Speaking of pants, shirt, and laundry, the sponge who couldn't fly is basically a laundry list of abuse disguised as wholesome fun. Our Sponge Boy is just out in jellyfish fields, minding his own business, wishing he could fly like the jellyfish. Seems innocent enough, right? Well, cue the series of failed attempts to make his dream come true. First, he tries a biplane, which, okay, why not? Then he's strapping on bat wings, riding garden chairs with balloons like he's auditioning for Up, and even getting dragged by a giant kite. Not a single fish has his back. Instead, everyone in bikini just points and laughs, labeling him the Birdman of Bikini Bottom. If you've ever had a dream crushed by haters, you know how this feels. SpongeBob just wanted to fly with a jellyfish, and all he gets is ridicule. They actually chase him off a cliff, sending him headfirst into a truck of mud, then feathers. Why stop at emotional abuse when you can add public humiliation? This dude's out here trying to live his best life, and the entire town forms a damn mob. That's like getting roasted on Twitter, then getting egged in real life. fast forward to SpongeBob's sad, dream-crushing realization that flying isn't for him. He's back at home, drying his hair, aka pores, spongy bitch, never mind, just f*** it. And of course, his pants randomly inflate when he's on a call with Joe Mama, real mature prank callers. Next thing you know, his inflatable pants give him the power to fly. Finally a win, right? Dead wrong. Suddenly, everyone in Bikini Bottom who mocked him wants a piece of the action. They don't even want him to fly for fun, they want him to do their dirty work. Need groceries? Ask the Flying Sponge. Forgot your keys? Flying Sponge got you. The townspeople are using him as their personal bloody delivery service. At this point, SpongeBob has gone from public embarrassment to being everyone's errand boy. He's not even flying with the jellyfish like he originally dreamed. Dude's just out here being exploited, all while his pants carry him around like a spongy taxi service. And just when SpongeBob tries to escape and get some alone time with his jellyfish pals, the mob returns because how dare he want a moment of peace. They chase him again, but this time Cannonball Jenkins literally shoots him out of the sky like it's a carnival game. SpongeBob's pants get destroyed and all the townsfolk mourn. Not for SpongeBob, oh no, they mourn the freaking pants. Yep, they couldn't care less about SpongeBob's broken dreams. It's all about those fucking inflatable trousers. In typical SpongeBob fashion, things take a bizarre, overly sentimental turn when the jellyfish come to his rescue, helping him fly home as he belts out a cheesy song about how all you need is friendship. Oh, and let's not forget Patchy's meltdown over the so-called lost episode. Even in the live-action parts, SpongeBob's existence leads to chaos. Patchy out here feeling betrayed by SpongeBob, as if the poor sponge hasn't been through enough already. Patchy trashes all his SpongeBob merch in a fit of rage, only to rewind his breakdown and come crawling back when the real episode finally airs. The dude just wanted to fly with the jellyfish, and instead, he gets shot down, literally. This next episode proves that even in the most absurd situations, SpongeBob never escapes the cycle of abuse from the people around him. I mean, SpongeBob can't even catch a break on his own in sleepy time. The episode starts with SpongeBob cruising in a hot rod in some Krabby Patty dreamscape. For once, SpongeBob's living his best life, finally holding that elusive driver's license until he crashes into a rock. And who appears out of nowhere to ruin everything? Yep, Mrs. Puff. She's here to tear up his license and throw him out of his own freaking dream. Imagine getting kicked out of your own subconscious like you've overstayed your welcome. Abusive? Oh, we're just getting started. Now, our Sponge Boy realizes his soul is drifting around Bikini Bottom's dream world. Naturally, his first stop is Gary's dream. Gary's living it up with a full humanoid body and a library that would make most scholars jealous. Not sure how a pet snail gets a better dream than his owner, but sure, why not? Gary's spitting limericks like he's Shakespeare reincarnated, while SpongeBob's just wandering through this whole situation like, that's cool, I guess. Onward to Patrick's dream, if you can call it that. Patrick is content riding a kiddie ride. That's it. SpongeBob's out here pulling dream acrobatics, creating a million clones of himself, and Patrick's just like, nah, I'm good, whee! I swear, even in dreams, SpongeBob can't get a shred of real excitement without someone dulling it down. Then we hit Squidward's dream. Oh boy. Squidward's doing his clarinet thing, performing for a king like he's in some royal court. SpongeBob bursts in, distracts the king with some Gary-inspired limericks, and straight up ruins Squidward's moment. So Squidward goes nuclear, snapping his clarinet in half, while SpongeBob morphs into a literal clarinet. It's hilarious, sure, but let's face it, SpongeBob's getting emotionally wrecked here. He's out of his depth, trying to help, and just making everything worse. Squidward then gets yeeted into a fruit cart, and SpongeBob gets cheered on for the worst clarinet solo in history. Next up is Sandy's dream. They're skydiving because this is Sandy and she's f***ing hardcore. SpongeBob totally misinterprets her parachute instructions. He thinks she's talking about a pair of shoes and a parakeet. Bruh, really? Sandy ends up plummeting into a truck of clam manure while SpongeBob bails, pronto on her dream. You can't even exist in someone's dream without ruining their day, or night, it seems. SpongeBob then stumbles into Pearl's dream, a tea party with stuffed animals. It's like stepping into a nightmare for anyone over the age of 5. SpongeBob's like, nope, not today, and bounces out of there faster than you can say Krabby Patty. He finally lands in Mr. Krabs' dream, where the guy's predictably fishing for money. Classic Krabs. They try to catch the Moby Dollar, but of course it slips away, so Krabs launches SpongeBob out of his dream with a harpoon. Finally, he crash lands into Plankton's nightmare dream, where the little dude is a Godzilla-sized menace shooting lasers and wrecking the city. It's all fun and games until SpongeBob pricks him with a pushpin and deflates him like a sad balloon. Naturally, Plankton gets trampled by the citizens. Talk about waking up on the wrong side of the dream. As SpongeBob returns to his own dream, all the angry faces of the people whose dreams he ruined show up to confront him. And what happens when he wakes up? Everyone, except Patrick, because of course he's too dumb to care, is in his house, pissed off and telling him to stay out of their dreams. Yikes, that's creepy. Poor SpongeBob, dude can't even sleep without being blamed for messing things up. Abuse much? If anyone needs some boundaries, it's this law. If you thought SpongeBob's chaos in his sleep was bad, just wait till you see him try to be a good neighbor while fully conscious. It's even worse. So the day starts off with SpongeBob waking up way too early. He's got this damn foghorn alarm that's loud enough to wake the dead. It's so loud it blasts Squidward out of his dreams too. For some reason, SpongeBob bounces on over to Squidward's house to helpfully remind him it's time to go to work, which would be kinda sweet if it weren't a bloody Sunday morning. Squidward's not feeling the love, and he's ready to punt SpongeBob into next week. Even though SpongeBob literally is just trying to be nice, Squidward kicks him out like he's the world's biggest nuisance. Now, instead of getting the hint, SpongeBob, ever the optimist, or maybe masochist, thinks Squidward's just cranky because he hasn't read his Sunday paper. A normal person might back off at this point, but nah, SpongeBob's got to take one more lap around the humiliation track. He teams up with Patrick, and somehow they end up freaking out over a newspaper monster like two stoned conspiracy theorists chasing shadows. Squidward's inside thinking he's about to finally have some me time with his bonbons and foot massages. However, our SpongeBoy and Patrick are outside tearing paper up and causing havoc. Then things get worse for our boy SpongeBob. Squidward tries to shake these two off again. This time by declaring himself president of the Secret Royal Order of the Good Neighbor Lodge, a title he just made up on the spot, by the way, and sends SpongeBob and Patrick off on some ridiculous errand to paint the trees around town with polka dots. SpongeBob thinks he's doing something awesome for Squidward, and he and Patrick head back to show off their progress. Needless to say, splatters fan, or in this case, paint splatters Squidward's face, in his eyes no less. Next thing you know, Squidward gets carted off to the hospital by two random fish. And where's SpongeBob in all this? Standing there feeling guilty for something that wasn't even his fault. Just another day in Bikini Bottom where SpongeBob's the punching bag for everyone else's problems. Fast forward a bit and SpongeBob's still trying to make it right. He and Patrick decide to investigate Squidward's foot monsieur to ensure he's not, an assassin in disguise. They're legit trying to be good neighbors, but predictably Squidward assumes crap. The minute he gets home and sees SpongeBob and Patrick getting his pedicure, he goes nuts. He kicks them out again and demands some peace, but let's be real, Squidward's idea of peace is a world where SpongeBob doesn't exist. At this point you'd think SpongeBob might learn his lesson and steer clear. Nope. Our poor Sponge is still hung up on trying to be a good neighbor. SpongeBob and Patrick come back with an apology cake all wide-eyed and hopeful, but Squidward's too fed up to even give them a shot. He's so paranoid and bitter that he thinks the cake's some kind of trap and he punches his own high-tech security system in a tantrum which, no shocker here, ends up backfiring and zapping him instead. Classic Squidward rage, but who takes the blame? SpongeBob as usual. And even though he didn't do anything wrong this time, he still ends up covered in cake and caught in the mess. Then Squidward's house literally walks off, and SpongeBob's inside probably thinking, why is this my life? Of course, when the house finally crashes, who's the one getting yelled at? Oh, it's still SpongeBob. Because in Bikini Bottom, somehow it's always SpongeBob's fault, no matter what. And then, as if the universe hasn't already done enough to SpongeBob in this bloody episode, the whole thing ends with all three of them, SpongeBob, Patrick, and Squidward, getting slapped with a jury summons. SpongeBob's just trying to be friendly, trying to fix things, and now he's got to spend every Sunday of his life doing community service for a disaster that wasn't even his fault. Like seriously, what more do they want from him? Talk about abuse, man. This little sponge deserves a medal, but instead I swear he gets punished for just existing. But it gets worse when Patrick takes the secret box and turns it into the ultimate weapon against Spongebob. Spongebob is running to Patrick's house all excited to go jellyfishing. Damn simple, except it's never that simple with these two. Patrick has to take care of some important business first, aka stashing away his secret box. Ah yeah, nothing screams trust between friends like hiding shadiest in a box and refusing to explain what's inside while rubbing it under your friend's nose. Naturally, SpongeBob's curiosity goes from 0 to 100 real quick. I mean, how dare his best friend have secrets? So SpongeBob tries the whole, I'll share my embarrassing secret if you show me your strategy. Does Patrick budge? Nope, not even a little. Instead, he doubles down on how super secret his box is, which only makes SpongeBob more desperate. If this isn't some low-key psychological warfare between besties, I don't know what is. As SpongeBob tries to show off his own secrets, probably like that time he overfed Gary or forgot to tie his shoes, Patrick couldn't care less. His focus is 100% on protecting his precious box. SpongeBob even resorts to begging, but Patrick is like, nah, dude, some things are for me, you know? To top it off, he threatens to cancel their Best Friends Forever membership if SpongeBob keeps pushing. Like, this is some serious emotional manipulation here. Imagine your best friend pulling that "we won't be friends anymore if you don't back off" card over a box. Harsh. After the whole day of Patrick dangling his stupid thingy in front of him, SpongeBob tries to do the mature thing. He apologizes, promises to respect Patrick's right to privacy, and they move on. Well, SpongeBob tries to move on. That night, though, he's lying in bed, wide-eyed, obsessing over what's in the box. The kid's tortured. It's like the box is whispering to him, you'll never know. You're not allowed. You're not special enough. Patrick's got SpongeBob spiraling into a full-blown mental breakdown over a secret box. This is psychological sabotage at its finest. SpongeBob can't take it anymore. His brain's fried from all the overthinking, and he decides to stake a full-on heist to get a glimpse at what's inside this box. Wearing a silk stocking as a mask, because fashion, SpongeBob slips into Patrick's house like he's part of some kind of low-budget spy movie. Of course, this is SpongeBob, so the floor is covered in potato chips, making his sneaky approach about as graceful as a herd of elephants. I don't know how, but Patrick's still fast asleep, even as SpongeBob crashes and bangs his way through the whole-ass room. SpongeBob's in full panic mode, thinking any second he'll wake up and catch him, but no. Patrick just snoozes away like nothing's happening. Finally, SpongeBob reaches the box. He's this close to getting the answer he so desperately needs when Patrick wakes up. And he thinks he's being robbed by the clam burglar. He's about to clobber SpongeBob with a pillow when SpongeBob quickly flashes their Best Friends Forever ring. Crisis averted, sort of. Patrick, feeling all betrayed and dramatic, threatens to end their friendship for real this time. I don't get how SpongeBob is the bad guy here. This is some next-level gaslighting right here. But in a twist of fake generosity, Patrick agrees to let SpongeBob look inside. Holy crap, finally, wait! A piece of string. Just string? After all the stress, the late-night burglary, the psychological warfare, and the broken friendship, it's just string? SpongeBob, bless his naive little heart, thanks Patrick and walks away feeling like a fool for ever doubting him. But Patrick knows the real secret. Turns out when you pull the string, a hidden compartment opens, revealing an embarrassing photo of SpongeBob at a Christmas party. Patrick chuckles to himself, all smug, and whispers a sarcastic, "Merry Christmas, SpongeBob," while clutching that photo like some kind of twisted trophy. The episode ends with SpongeBob completely in the dark while Patrick gets the last laugh. Patrick not only drove SpongeBob to the brink of madness over nothing, but he's secretly been sitting on an embarrassing photo of him the whole time. That's cold, Patrick. Real cold. And now we come to our final episode on our list. This one is crushing. Things get pulverized in a bloody blender of crappy treatment for SpongeBob in Shanghai. This episode kicks off like any other day in Bikini Bottom, except a giant anchor crashes into SpongeBob's house, and for some reason, our boy thinks this enormous chunk of metal is a baby. Cute, Sure, but come on, man. Even Patrick shows up and starts calling it a baby. It's like Bikini Bottom's got an open invitation to stupid today. While these two are busy playing house with the anchor, Squidward, ever the voice of reason, if reason sounds like a constantly annoyed, overworked cephalopod, shows up and shuts down their whole baby anchor fantasy. He's got bigger problems, though, mainly that the anchor just smashed his house too. Squidward does what any deranged, angry neighbor would, climbs the rope to give the ship's owner a piece of his mind, while Spongebob and Patrick tag along like unwanted plus ones. The Flying Dutchman looking like a ghost pirate who's ready to file an insurance claim for property damage. Squidward's big plan to yell at the Dutchman backfires spectacularly, and the ghost starts throwing some major heat his way. Meanwhile, Spongebob, he's just standing there all wide-eyed, practically handing Squidward over like, here, burn him to a crisp first. And it works. Squidward gets fried. Then the Dutchman says Spongebob and Patrick also get to join his ghostly crew for eternity. Now, if that isn't workplace mistreatment, I don't know what is. Eternity scrubbing decks? SpongeBob's already on the clock at the Krusty Krab forever. This is just straight up overkill. But Squidward isn't having it and mouths off again, so the Dutchman tosses him into the Fly of Despair, which, judging by Squidward's scream, is a one-way trip to Nightmare Land. SpongeBob and Patrick, they're left staring at the zipper portal like, well, guess we're next. So what does the Dutchman make them do? Terrorize Bikini Bottom, duh! But come on, SpongeBob scaring people? His idea of terrifying is probably showing up to work with a wrinkled uniform. Needless to say, they fail spectacularly, and the Dutchman decides, you know what, I'll just eat you instead. Now SpongeBob and Patrick are locked in a room waiting to be eaten. First, he's forced into ghost slavery, and now he's gonna be a meal? The abuse is off the charts here. Their only escape is through the perfume department, which sounds random and makes no logical sense on so many levels, so okay, whatever, I'm done with this. They survive the perfume gauntlet, only to land back into the Dutchman's clutches. But plot twist, they've got his dining sock, because for some reason this ghost pirate can't eat without a sock. Realizing his Achilles heel is footwear, the Dutchman gives them 3 wishes in exchange for the sock's safe return. What follows is probably one of the most Patrick moments ever. His first wish? I wish I'd known about these wishes earlier. Boom! Wish wasted. Mother. An idiot. SpongeBob, always the do-gooder, tries to fix things with the second wish by bringing Squidward back from the Fly of Despair. The thing is, Squidward had just escaped that interdimensional hellhole, and now he's back on the cursed ship. Dude can't catch a break either, it seems. They're down to 1 wish, and SpongeBob gets chosen to make it. What does he wish for? Does he wish for freedom? Nah, he wishes the Flying Dutchman was a vegetarian. Somehow this bullshit sorta works. The Dutchman transforms into some weird hippie ghost, and SpongeBob and the gang end up as fruit stuck into a blender. Yep, you heard that right. Fruit in a blender. As if that's not a giant-ass metaphor for SpongeBob being thrown into the most abusive situations ever. As this episode ends, the Dutchman turned hippie is now chasing them around his ship, which is now a hippie van. Oh, bloody hell, I think that sums up how our Sponge Boy has been mistreated and abused. Maybe it's high time someone do something about it. But hey, what do I know? I'm just a guy who likes cartoons.